All right, Dr. Thomas, we are, I guess Thomas is my cousin, y'all. We are live. Are you ready to kick this thing off, Doc?
Let's get it.
Let's do it.
Ktteev, giving you what you need. Motivation, education unleashed. H-Town representing, we forever keep it rolling. Join the conversation with inspirational stories. Thought-provoking, feel that energy. Kendrick Thomas aiming to lift the community. True indeed, tune in, come and see. Giving you what you need. Ktteev, let's go. Hey, Ktteev.
What it do, KTTV? This is KT, and I'm coming at you live with another episode of Education Unleashed. And on tonight's episode, I have the Grand Master herself, educator, author, just everything, Dr. Katina Thomas. How you doing tonight, Doc?
I'm doing good. I'm loving that intro. Hey, I need to bring you everywhere with me.
Hey, look, we got to get it going because I think how they say the way you start that thing is the way you're going to end. So let's turn it up.
All right.
Hey, that's it. Now, I want to say thank you for taking some time out the schedule. I know we talked in the pregame about just how busy it is on both ends. So just thank you for showing up tonight.
I appreciate the invitation. You knew I was going to accept your invitation. I always accept your invitation because I love talking with you and chatting it up.
Look, I was thinking like the last time we did this, I was getting started. I remember us meeting at the apartment complex. I had the table with the phone set up. It was real, just things to now where we come and we're able to jump online. We're able to kind of run our banners at the bottom. And the promo game has stepped up. So, hey, we had to get it going.
Congrats to you.
Look, we got to keep it going forward movement.
That's right.
So before we jump into anything, wellness is so important, understanding the times that we live in. So as you go through PV and the grind and you all out the country, how are you balancing work and finding that time to take care of self?
That's a good question. I think I'm intentional. Mm-hmm. I'm intentional with how I use my 24 hours. Which means that I no longer believe in grinding it out. Mm-hmm. I've learned pacing myself is what leads to longevity. Yeah. That it's a marathon, not a sprint. So I need to be able to not only be able to accomplish all of the things I have on paper, but I need to understand myself. I need to understand and learn my body. I need to understand my mental health, my spiritual health, my emotional health. So if that means that I may have a very organized life, I'm almost type A. I don't want to admit type A. I'm not quite type A, but I do a daily things to do list so I can compartmentalize what I'm doing day to day because it's psychological. If I don't do that, I'm going to feel overwhelmed. I'm going to feel like I'm drowning. But I also know if I don't pace myself with my things to do and carve out some time to rest, to take some breaks, to play on social media. If I don't make any time to indulge in a favorite television show, and this year in 2023, I intentionally went back to leisure reading, things of that nature. If I don't, and some days I just want to sit still and I just want to sit on my patio and enjoy the weather. That way I don't feel like I have to take a vacation to escape. I have to be away from that. So it was just being intentional with understanding how my body worked, how my mind and my spirit work, and to be able to create a steady rhythm. Yeah. And then not beating myself up if I needed that break. So that's how I get it done. Man,
and when I think about that, they call it the hustle culture, right? And so I remember first starting the podcast, I was like, man, nobody gonna outwork me, man. I'm gonna keep this thing going. And so, just posting, I remember my goal was, okay, I'm gonna post 100 times per day. And so then just never hit it, but just thinking about everything that goes into putting, and this was before I learned how to even schedule posts. Right. So I'm posting all these on my own. I mean, it was crazy. But like you're saying, coming to the realization of the years that it's a marathon, not a race, right? And then I remember reading, I think his name Mike Smoker, or something like that, but it was a book called Focus, right? We read it as a book study for the campus, but it was talking about taking out all those fluff pieces, if I can use that word, and kind of honing in on what's the most important thing to get the bang for your book. So that was one part, but I'm with you on that other side. I was talking the other day. I was like, well, sometimes I just want to sit and watch Love and Hip Hop. But that's what keeps us going though. So totally understand where you're coming from, and thank you for dropping those nuggets, because somebody needed to hear this today. Slow down.
Yeah, tell them it's okay to take a nap. It's okay. Yeah, whatever's there will still be waiting there for you when you wake up.
Yeah, I'll be checking the post, and I do know you get them naps in, Doc.
Oh, I love that nap.
Hey.
I'm gonna get that rest.
So now jumping into for the people that don't know, and I don't know where they at, but just in case they hear, can you tell us a little bit about your background? And I guess going back to what really sparked that love of education.
I have to say, it was almost like when you're interacting with humans, very few people have love at first sight.
Yeah.
So it wasn't love at first sight. When I was growing up, my motivation by the time I was 17 was, okay, I'm gonna go to college. College was just understood. It's understood in my house and my family, and I worked towards that. But I was thinking, okay, I'm gonna go to school. I'm going to major in education because I'm going to be a superintendent of schools. That's what I'm going to do. Because I was thinking about, okay, I'm going and I'm going to run things. Then I got into the program, and it wasn't necessarily a rude awakening, but what I noticed was it's a lot more than this. It's a lot more to this, and it's some levels to being able to effectively teach. So when I finished my degree, I went into A-Leaf. I went into your stomping ground.
Let's go, Leaf.
Worked at a few schools. I earned my master's in administration. I have a principal certificate. I have all of that. I did over almost 400 hours of professional development while on A-Leaf. And I even started my doctoral program while working in A-Leaf. Now, I resigned from A-Leaf when I got into the last 12 months of my doctorate because I had to be able to effectively coming back to that balance of reaching that goal of my doctorate and still wanting to work in education. So I had to come up with that mindset of I'm going to have to take a step back to move a few steps forward. So I resigned. I actually didn't mind teaching. I actually enjoyed it. I actually enjoyed working in education. But I also knew that as I became more educated, I started to outgrow certain roles in K-12 education.
Most definitely.
And I started to learn more about myself as I earned these degrees. And I realized there were certain parts I liked, certain parts I didn't. And then I started to realize I liked more of the coaching and mentoring. I still like education to make sure learners can grow. I started to realize it's not just kids, it's just learners in general, regardless of the age. And I found myself being able to just have conversations with other educators and would say, hey, have you tried this? Hey, have you thought about this? Because I started seeing it from a different angle. I'm in graduate programs, they teach you how to think critically, more analytically, especially if you're in a good one. And especially if you realize that the way that you're thinking in your current role in education doesn't always match where you're going. Yeah. So as I matriculated through and left K-12, I found myself in academia. And I found myself still working with colleges of education. But I found myself when I first finished my doctorate at University of Houston as a visiting assistant professor of literacy education, because that was the area that I just gravitated towards naturally. And that may have come from childhood. Having parents that were voracious readers, writers, that's pretty much what I gravitated towards. I give it up to the mathematicians and the math experts. that I'm going to allow you to have your lane. I'm all reading and literacy. But I found myself supervising student teachers while at University of Houston, being a visiting assistant professor for literacy education and teacher education. I worked for a brief stint at University of Houston downtown in urban education.
Hey.
And what I loved about it was I fell in love with teaching again, just older learners.
Yeah.
I started imparting the knowledge and the nuggets I learned while teaching in K-12, while working in A-Leaf with the students, along with whatever was in the syllabus. And then I found myself at University of Houston, Victoria.
Hey.
And I was there, and I was an assistant professor of literacy education. And then towards the end of my time there, that part of my tenure, I also became director of student teaching and field experiences. So I started placing 40 to 60 student teaching candidates a semester between Region 3 and Region 4 Education Service Centers. So I had contact with all of these school districts. And then one day I had the opportunity to apply at Prairie View. I was like, oh, my alma mater. I want to go back to my alma mater.
Yeah.
And it would also keep me off the road.
Mm-hmm.
And I applied. I didn't hear anything for some months. So I said, okay, I'm just going to keep going. And then I got invited to come down and interview, do a job talk, and they made the offer. And it felt, when I got back, it felt like home.
Yeah.
It just felt like home. Mm-hmm. And that's what's kept me in education, in the field, because a lot of people leave the field of study that they formerly earned their degrees in and do something else, which is nothing wrong with that. You have to go with your calling, with your purpose. Yeah. But for me, it turned out to be education. It turned out to match my field of study. But what I noticed is that I continued to grow in my field. And that's how I was able to matriculate through into different roles while staying in my original field of study.
Yeah. And with the doctorate, I was talking to a friend of mine the other day, and he was like, man, you got to go back. You got to get the doctorate. And I was like, well, dude, our last superintendent didn't have one, and he was the boss. So I was like, I want to get it, but at the same time, I'm not really just motivated to go back because the work that I'm doing is not saying doctorate. Mm-hmm. What are your thoughts on staying in K-12 education and that need for that doctorate?
I'll tell you what I tell a lot of people. Okay, after I first earned my doctorate, I had a lot of love from people I grew up with or I met along the way throughout at some point in time in my life. And they all would say, well, I'm thinking about going back and get it. And I accepted what they were saying because sometimes I wonder, maybe sometimes we need to see someone else do it to make it seem as though it's not insurmountable to actually meet and know someone, have access to someone. But then I'd have some of them that would tell me that. And then there was a part two to that response. They would say, but I don't really know what I would do with it. I don't really know if I have a need for it. So then I would tell them, look, let me explain it to you. Getting a doctorate is an individualized degree. Yeah. I know there's a lot of cohorts out there, but in all honesty, it's an individualized degree. Do not go back to school to get the doctorate unless you have something you really want to study and investigate. And I know nobody's going to tell you that. I know it sounds like I'm contradicting what a lot of colleges say, but I'm going to tell you the truth. If there is nothing that you are passionate about, that you really want to study and investigate, then wait until you do. Yeah. There's going to be something. What motivated me to go back was I was seeing a lot of things in K-12 in the roles that I was in that were causing me to question how was K-12 education operating? And then how was it operating for my folks, my little young Black girls and Black boys? Yeah. And then I started noticing Well, I have a lot of friends like me. We have a lot of education, but we can't seem to get promoted out of the classroom.
Mm-hmm.
So, what's going on in this system? So that's what led me back. I wanted to start investigating more and doing research studies of what's really going on and what can I do to possibly change a lot of the narrative, especially if you're teaching while Black
Yeah.
and you're trying to be a leader while Black in K-12 education.
Mm-hmm.
So, um, bottom line is, if you are not ready to investigate something, or there's nothing motivating you to go investigate and research, then wait until there is.
Yeah.
Because when you get this degree, it's not always about going out to make a lot of money. That should not be a motivator.
Mm-hmm. Most definitely. Most definitely. I think about that Texas A&M. They almost got me when I was living down in Bryan, because I was a behavior teacher. And so
Mm-hmm.
then they had the behavior doctorate, but I would be living on campus.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was like, man, that sounds like I'm going back to undergrad. You know, so I was like, I don't know about that. Then I can't work full time. I just was like, no. But but so when I do think about researching, the work that I'm doing with the young men, there something along with those lines with education, on seeing those young Black boys and being successful. That is something, but I still say I'm gonna take your advice, right? I'm gonna wait till I get ready to fully figure out that thought that I want to research. So thank you for that, because I have been teetering a while.
Well, will say this: you don't have to have it all worked out.
Yeah.
If you just have an inkling, just
Mm-hmm.
a planted seed that you're curious about, it's not going to be narrowed down when you first enter.
Yeah.
Then lean into it.
Okay.
But if you're not there yet, where you have that seed planted,
Mm-hmm.
then wait until you are, because
Okay.
it's a very self-motivating degree.
Yeah, I
Very.
agree. I
And
agree.
I don't have any problem supporting anyone that's taking that journey, because I've taken it and I took it in the season that I needed to take it in.
Mm-hmm.
But if there's anyone else out there that's in a season where they're in the middle of it or in the process of it, because it's transformative, getting that degree is transformative for everyone,
Mm-hmm.
then I usually have no problem supporting, offering any words of wisdom or any type of support to help them understand that they'll be fine, they'll make it through. Even when you feel like you're in the middle of the wilderness and you don't know what direction to go, you'll come out, you'll be fine.
Yeah, and that's the way I see my boy. Sometimes I know it some days he just don't know which way to go. He's like, man, I gotta finish this homework.
Mm-hmm.
You
Mm-hmm.
know, but I think it's very rewarding, because he is doing something to figure out that he loves with SEL.
Mm-hmm.
So I do think it'll work out for him. But when I tell you, some days that brother be walking around like, man, it's real out here, man. I can't do nothing but say, I got you, brother, whatever you need. So
Okay.
most definitely then. Oh, now since we talked, man, I
Mm-hmm.
want to say it was maybe 2019,
Yeah.
somewhere up in there. You did a lot. Got a few articles, right? You did a bunch of presentations.
Yeah.
Now did you do something outside of the country? Or
I did. I don't think I'd done it until after we talked. So
yes.
I did. I went to Canada.
Yeah.
Went to
Oh,
international conference.
come on
Okay,
now.
so this is how it happened. I was actually on vacation for a milestone birthday out of the country.
Yeah.
Sitting by the pool at the resort. You know, it's May. I'm a May baby, so it was nice and warm. So shout out to the May babies.
Hey.
But I was relaxing because it had been a very busy year at Prairie View.
Mm-hmm.
I needed to decompress, wanted to celebrate my birthday, and I get this phone call. And it was Kappa Delta Pi International Honor Society. They were having an international research conference. And they said, you know, you've been published with us before. We see that you sent us a little something for our conference. We'd like to invite you to come. I almost didn't answer the phone because I was decompressing. And I was like, I don't know this number. But I picked it up and I said, oh, yes, I'll come. So that really made my vacation. So when I got back, I made plans and I went a couple of months later in July. I went to Canada and I flew up there and I represented the institution and I presented some roundtable research on culturally relevant and culturally responsive literacy practices for young African American males, young African American boys, about the impact of having a departmentalized or blocked classroom as young as second grade in the primary grades, the impact it would have on them having the right classroom environment, and how it impacted the standardized reading performance data that has to be collected on these young boys, and seeing the amount of growth it had when you compartmentalize your subjects, even at that age, so that you remove distractions from the classroom and you help them focus, and then having that environment that's open and welcoming with cultural relevance and inviting their culture in the classroom.
Yeah. And now, speaking of that, coming from elementary and looking at blocked classes, I want to say we didn't block in first, but we did start second grade and up. So what were the findings? Was it is that preferred? Was that a better style? Did it come up? Or is that too early to block?
I don't think it's too early to block if you know how to frame it correctly. If you are truly aware of what's needed socially and emotionally at that age, because many times I used to hear in the past, I haven't heard it recently, that you don't need to have blocked classrooms that young because of social emotional development, which is true in early childhood development. They do need the social emotional element. So they need to stay with the same teacher all day. However, if you set up the right environment and a schedule that is simple to follow, then it is manageable when they are younger. They don't necessarily know much different because they haven't been in school long enough to have to get set in some ways and then have to shift. And I also want to give a shout out to my teaching partner the year I did that, Jabari Burton. He probably is not watching, but he's still in A-League. And he's at Heflin Elementary. He was my teaching partner. And I will honestly say he was a good support system. He was a Black man. And then I was a Black woman. So, of course, we brought our culture in. So, you know, the culture of family. You have your work mama, your work daddy, and we had that environment with the kids, but they could switch our classrooms in the middle of the day. And they could come to me for reading and have the hours of reading. And then they could go to him for math and science and have that. And having the classroom set up where you didn't have every single subject on the wall when you're asking a student to read the room. When you're asking them to read anchor charts, and they are already struggling to just acquire the information, think about how overwhelming that would be for them to try to determine which anchor charts are for math, for science, for social studies, for reading, for writing. But if you only have one or two subjects in there and that's the focus, then they have a better understanding of where to read, what to do, and how to be able to become more independent as far as readers and thinkers.
Most definitely, that was powerful. Getting a little bit more behind that, and we just went with it because we thought it was best practice being able to kind of keep them going, but didn't think about something as small as the anchor charts. Like small but so big, right? Because it does get confusing. I look at the class that we have now, and it's just that math class, and so it's referred to the wall. But it's math everywhere versus your math, your reading wall, your science wall, your social study wall. And baby, like, wait a minute. Yeah, so most definitely powerful information, huh? Yeah. Okay, so now getting into the teacher setup and the work that you're doing at my alma mater, PVAMU, where we produce productive people. Hey. So, but before we jump into that, getting teachers prepared, what do you think sets PV apart in terms of teacher preparation and professional development?
What sets us apart? I honestly have to say and I have to go back to this, it's the culture of the university and the culture of the program.
Yeah.
We were talking about this earlier about how the HBCU culture is just it's more welcoming. I receive emails from students on a weekly basis about how I'm certified now. Thank you. Everything that you taught in your class, it showed up on the exam, or what they're talking about now in on my job. You mentioned that in your course. So I think what it is the culture, but it's also having this environment where they feel comfortable enough to ask questions, or a student feels comfortable enough to say, I don't understand, what's that? And not feeling shamed about it.
Yeah.
So that really sets us apart. Where we are, we're open to the students because we know that they're bringing a skill set and a background knowledge that many of us also share.
Yeah.
So we can teach from that perspective. We can tell you what's in a textbook. We can tell you best practices, but then we add that extra element of, okay, so when you go into your profession, in the skin you're in, this is how you deliver it. This is how you navigate it. So we're always thinking about if you're teaching while Black, if you're teaching while brown, if you're teaching while you're a man in an environment where it's not a lot of men. If I'm teaching where I'm the youngest teacher on a campus because everybody are veterans. We teach from those different perspectives, but then I know personally in my courses, I take a lot of the practices that I used as a K-12 teacher, and I modify it for them as adults. And I have more of a combination of a project-based learning and with a little mix of PLC.
Yeah, gotta have that PLC.
And some professional development where we do a little bit of lecture and sit and get, but then we do some application.
Yeah.
Because one thing I learned when I was in the school district is if I went to a training and I didn't apply it immediately, I wasn't going to use it. So I developed my teaching style like that. And I have colleagues like that in the department so that the students actually enjoy coming. They actually will laugh in class. They'll actually be comfortable enough to crack jokes, but they also understand they're there to get their business. So I think that's what sets us apart, so that we build that confidence in them when they go out to the field.
Yeah, and now speaking of your class, because it sounds like it's a pretty good class. Like you hard, you hard, your class hard.
Let me explain.
Hey, see.
Let me explain. Okay, it's not hard. What I'm doing is my expectations are just high, meaning that I know what they're about to face. I am also in tune with, at the end of the day, my students need to be certified.
Yes.
And that those certification tests are standardized. And no matter how much we try to review questions to make sure that they are unbiased as possible, there is still research out there that shows test bias. So I'm mindful of all that. And I've had the opportunity to actually be on advisory committees and make sure that there's more equity in the questions so they're not biased. But I also live in reality. So if I want them to understand speech to print, because I teach literacy, if I want them to practice their sounds so they can teach them correctly, if I want them to know how to write a lesson plan, if I want them to know how to teach a mini lesson, if it's terminology that I want them to know because I know they're going to see it later, I'm going to hold them accountable and introduce it in my class. I'm going to reinforce it in my class. They're going to demonstrate it in my class. And it pays off in the long run. It does. But we're still going to have fun with it. I'm not going to be so stiff to where we can't have a little fun, that I can't teach in a conversational tone, because I learned that in graduate school from a dean emeritus that was teaching a class for me. He said the best teachers are storytellers. So I can go in and tell the stories, expose them to the content. They learn, they study, they apply, they demonstrate. they analyze, they go through all of that. So I apply a lot of what I learned preparing as a teacher, and I model for them so they can take it.
That was a nice answer right there, Doc. Okay, then. Well,
I
no, I got
had to dress it. I had to explain myself. I'm not
it.
hard. And now they will tell you, okay, so word always gets back to me. It's never anything bad. They just saying she's really cool. She gives a lot of work though, but you don't learn a lot. That's what they do. So I never have an issue. My classes always fill up when registration opens.
Yeah,
As soon as it opens, they make sure those fees are paid. There's no holds, so they can get a spot or a seat in my class. So to me, that's a good sign.
Yeah, well, we thank you because right now we need it more than ever for them to come out and be ready. So I appreciate you for being on that front line and making it happen. Right. So now, the last time we talked, I want to say we were. It may have been 2020 because I think we talked about a little bit of COVID.
Okay.
And talking about moving to online, I want to say. But now we think about 2022. We've seen the impact of COVID. We know that we're coming in to fight gaps, to fight disparities, equity. How has the pandemic, I guess, impacted teacher preparation? And what new approaches have you seen when we're thinking about, like I say, those gaps that you all have switched up at PV?
Okay. What people don't realize is just like our students in K-12 public education may have experienced some learning gaps. We're discovering that it could be a couple of learning gaps with our college students. But they're gaps that we're plugging or that we have plugged. We noticed it and we pivoted. And it was because just like everyone else, we were thrust into the virtual world. And if you have a teaching style that's similar to mine, where we talk a little bit, but then we do some application and some demonstration. We do it like we do things like a clinic. And all of a sudden, I have to just talk to you through a webcam. It made a lot of us pivot and really start to rethink what can we digitize and what can we do that will still keep them safe, but will also prepare them for where they're going. Because we also, on top of that, teaching the content, helping them get certified, helping them become marketable to be employed, we also had to get them ready to go into what could have possibly been a virtual teaching situation for the duration, because there was no end date in sight. So we all received the training for distance education from the university. So we're certified to teach distance education. And even when we started to reopen in 2021, the campus started to reopen. I still kept one of my courses online. And however, it wasn't just me putting it online, very empty. It was actually taken through a rigorous process from our instructional designers who are certified educators, who are certified and credentialed to know how to convert courses into online instruction and still be effective. It went through a rigorous audit, and they actually spoke with us about how to take activities and put them online. I went to additional training that was offered by UNCF just for employees from HBCUs in the summer to learn activities to do, things to keep students engaged. So we faced a lot of the same obstacles that K-12 teachers did. It's just that we had a different set of resources that we could access because we had different content. So I kept one of my more rigorous courses online that will prepare students for science of teaching reading, because that also started during the pandemic.
Yes, it did.
And we took a lot of what we did, we digitized it. They are becoming Zoom masters as far as creating videos. It really made us ramp up technology integration, but not only just to learn content, but to learn how to use it as an educator. I loved it, and I never really went back.
Yeah. Now, do you think the STR? Do you think it's a help as we get new teachers into that field, and we knowing how in some cases you have to be really tuned in and intentional about their reading instruction versus our math skills. Don't get me wrong, math people, you still got to be intentional, but with that literacy, no, you like I say, you coming in, I may be at first grade, third grade, and I could be in fifth grade and still going through all those. So how do you think that science of teaching reading component for certification impacted it, good or bad?
It's hard for me to measure it because our reading program was already teaching from a scientific standpoint before this exam was added.
Yeah.
I'm proud to say that I and my reading faculty colleagues were already preparing our teachers on the fundamentals of the science of it. Because we had 100% of our students passing English language arts and reading, getting certified. So we have that, and we've been holding. And it's not a lot of colleges that can do that, especially when these students don't have a lot of teaching experience. So when they added the science of teaching reading, we all received training from the state, resources, materials, but we looked at it and we said, well, we already do a lot of this. They've just compartmentalized a lot of phonics and phonemic awareness, which we were already introducing. And we're just taking a little bit of a deeper dive. I would say from the standpoint of preparation, I think that is okay because it looks like they took some of what they were already going to get in professional development and they moved it into teacher preparation. However, it's a catch-22. They learn it, but some things are strengthened through experience, actually teaching it. So we're exposing it to them earlier, but they become stronger once they can actually teach it. So, and of course, they also have a writing component to get certified. They have to have a written response. And I've sat in the room with other instructional coaches and veteran teachers, and they saw the writing prompt that we're helping them prepare to write. And I've heard 2 or 3 of them say, I don't think I could have passed this as an undergrad. I have a master's degree, and this is difficult for me because the writing prompt looks similar to a comp exam question for a master's level student.
Wow. Okay.
So it has some good points, but it has some that are left to be desired.
Yeah. I know for me, when I taught high school, I was English teacher. I was 8 through 12 English certified. And that test in itself was real. So God bless everybody coming in right now. But like I say, I trust you getting it done, Doc. So I think they're going to be all right.
You already know.
And 100%. Come on, PB.
And science of teaching reading, 100%.
Come on now.
So anybody that's looking for somebody that knows about English language arts and reading and science of teaching reading and fundamentals, we talk to any of our students.
Yeah, come on in over to PB if you don't want your CEO dancing all in your video.
Yes.
That's it, damn. Now, thinking about the future of education post-pandemic, it's that time. So people are doing those applications, getting ready for those interviews. What are the most important skills that you think teachers should have in this changing landscape?
Some of the skills that I introduced to them, I actually introduced to them and I embedded in my coursework because they need to get a full picture of what I'm trying to teach them. I can teach them content. I can help them prepare for things. But then I always throw in these nuggets of think about this, think about that. When you're answering a question, if HR or a building principal or an administrator comes to see you, think about this. So some of the things that I try to prepare them for from the role that I have, knowing that I have K-12 background experience, knowing that's the direction they're going in. I always give them a rationale for why we have to study something. Why I want you to know R says and not R. Little things like that. And so I always tell them I want them to understand the fundamental components of a lesson plan. I want them to understand how to build relationships from a culturally relevant standpoint with the students.
Yeah.
I want them to be knowledgeable of their students' culture and background. And sometimes you learn it from having them in your class, so that if they do or say something that you think is offensive, but they are from a different cultural background or have different cultural values, it may not be personal. I want them to understand that. I also have them understand that you can have the most beautiful classroom on your campus that looks like it comes straight from Pinterest. But if you don't know your content, then it's a waste of time, because administrators are going to go in your classroom and they are going to look for evidence of instruction and evidence of learning. So we talk about the little things like anchor charts, what happens when you have a shared reading, a read aloud, how to conduct yourself if a student says something inappropriate during a discussion and it wasn't intentional. How do you react? I always throw those questions out there.
Yeah.
I'll ask them, what do you do if you receive an email from a parent? How to interact? Those little things that you don't really know about until you're in it. I want to give them as much of a heads up as possible, and how to respond if an administrator calls you into their office because you may have said something that was taken out of context because of the tone of voice. You have to remember where I teach.
Yeah.
Our inflections and the tone of our voice may be loving, or it may just be matter of fact to us. And it could have been to the student, but to someone that doesn't understand that, it could have come across as aggressive or abrasive. So the little nuggets of basically teaching while your skin has a tan and how to navigate that.
Yeah. I'd have been through that though. When you get that email, you be like, "Oh no, I know this ain't." But then you go in it, they looking like, "What? No, you know." But yeah, I got to like, well, what was you trying to say in that email? What was that?
And see, I have to, and we talk about those things because if you are at if you are at an HBCU and you are Black, you have this level of freedom to speak your mind and to say whatever is on your mind. And we still want them to do that professionally, but we want to help them understand the proper discourse to still be able to do that without accidentally burning some bridges professionally.
Yeah.
We're not asking them to give up their identity. We're not asking them to necessarily change anything about themselves. Just understand the different types of discourse when they're interacting with different people.
Most definitely. And are y'all doing any, I guess, innovative teaching methodologies that you want to brag on, or technologies that are being implemented right now?
I would say, and that's hard to answer because because we're constantly changing.
Yeah.
We're constantly evolving. So it's not like we have these checkpoints where now we're going to start. It's just ongoing.
Yeah.
So right now, I have some colleagues that are introducing going into the field earlier than students last semester, but we still have it where they can student teach the last semester. We're building relationships with school districts in which we can have more of a pipeline into the field from the university itself to the field. We actually have more people reaching out to us. We also have internship programs that are coming that are recruiting Prairie View students that are in our College of Education and teacher preparation. We have a few other things coming, but I'm not going to tell it just yet.
Hey,
but we have a few other things coming.
Yeah.
It's just too soon. But those are just a few of the current things that are in its infancy, and I will honestly say that we have no shortage of relationships and opportunities for students to do more than just go to class.
Yeah. Nice. I talked to Dr. Mays, who is our new superintendent, a few weeks ago. I want to say maybe it was about 2 weeks ago. And so, we talked about, and I even asked HD this when I had him on. was we have relationships with University of Nebraska, right? And so students were coming down, and so I said, well, how do we get those connections with PV, with TSU, and even Dr. May said, well, even Tilton, which was his HBCU in Austin. And so,
yes.
how important are those connections? And I don't know if you could tell us, but have y'all started working on anything in the Leaf yet?
I can say that currently we actually have an all boys campus in Aldine ISD.
Okay.
And so, and Prairie, and we have a few Prairie View graduates there. We have a very close relationship with Aldine. So what I can say now is that that kind of serves as the model if other districts are interested in establishing relationships, that we're open, especially if we share the vision with them. So we currently have that with Aldine, where our dean and other colleagues there, that was their baby, their brainchild. But we actually have been to the campus. We know the students. We've met the teacher candidates we've had there. We've met the instructors there, the instructional coach, the principal. So it's a joint initiative between Aldine and Prairie View. So I guess with that said, if A-Leaf is interested, they have a vision.
Let's go, A-Leaf.
Find us.
We got work to do now. We got all these productive people coming out of
here. Yes. And we would love to send teachers to A-Leaf, because I remember my experience there. I and 4 other classmates that graduated with me from undergrad went right into A-Leaf. And some of them are still there. And it was a very robust educational experience for myself. I grew a lot professionally. I would love for my students to have that same opportunity to work with diverse groups of students, to be able to get those professional development opportunities, to see the resources available, and to see the innovations there. I would love for them to have that opportunity.
Yeah, most definitely. Because like I said, it's very diverse these days, right? So whether it's with the staff, whether it's with the kids, because everybody moving into the same neighborhood, because everybody going through everything. And so then it ain't too much where you see it's only African American students in here. Like you said, you got to be able to understand those cultural differences and then apply them in your pedagogy, but also in your practice, in your emails, all that, So I do believe that we need to plug that up. But the good thing is, I believe that Dr. Mays is moving toward that, because he said, man, well, I was wondering the same thing. Right. So then that's where we moving to. So very appreciative and looking forward to have
so that means I'll be looking for you on campus when the meetings start. That's what you're saying?
You can look for me.
Okay. And just let me know when you're gonna be out there. Let me know when you're gonna be out there way to help with that plug.
Look, that's what we're trying to do here. Now we got to get that's why I talk about it every chance I get, whether I talk to him, like I say, whether I talk to HD, because while I do see those University of Nebraska connections important, meaningful, because it's different on both ends of what they getting and what our students are getting. It's nothing like having somebody that can relate to you, right? And be inside of your class who, like you said, they got all the pedagogy, they got the content, but then it's just a different layer of you understanding what I'm going through as an African American or brown kid in this classroom. And I think that's what's needed because, man, I'm working on this, but a pencil is not my biggest issue, right? Not having a pencil is so. But if you don't understand and really empathize with my culture, you don't know that.
Exactly.
So I think that's one of the biggest pieces.
Well, and I agree. And to be honest, we have a career fair April 20th. Yeah. And we'd love for A-Leaf ISD, if they haven't already registered. I'm on the career fair committee. So I'm making that plug. So April 20th, we are having our career fair, our teacher career fair. So if and we invite you to go come along with human resources. We love to have not only human resources come and have a booth with us, but also we like to have representatives that graduated from Prairie View at the table with someone from human resources, because that begins that relationship, so the students can see someone that walked the halls that I walked is here, and they can really give me the real deal. They'll be honest with me. It's that level of trust. So if you can come with them, we invite A-Leaf ISD to come to the career fair April 20th. If you need to, you can get with me. I can get you the information, get you the registration link, pass it on to Dr. Mays. If he doesn't already have it, pass it on to human resources. And we just want y'all to come on and just start talking to our students.
Yeah, I'm start sending these random emails out with the link, and I'll see who's gonna bite on. Dr. Felicia Bolden. All right, Doc. Dr. Thomas, great job. And I'm so proud of you. A-Leaf family.
Yes, it's so good to see that plug from her. She's doing big things. She's doing big things.
Most definitely.
I'm trying to keep up with her.
Look, I was going through my LinkedIn and I was like, man, there's so many people that's just doing it big. And so I made sure that I sent her they connect just to get plugged in. So shout out to you, Dr. Bolden, for getting logged in tonight. Great conversation. So now, what's next for you? I know it's going to be something big, so I'm preparing. But what's next? What do you have going on outside of the schoolhouse?
All right. So I actually started a consulting firm. It wasn't intentional. Every opportunity I've had along the way in my career, it was just the opportunity presented itself. So I started a consulting firm about October 2021. Called KLT Consulting. And I have a website. And right now my focus is making sure that we have as many teachers prepared for ESL certification, because that is one area that I notice where many teachers, because it is supplemental, many teachers put it on the back burner, but then that timeline, that time starts ticking once they sign their contract, where they have a certain amount of time to get that certification or they can't teach anymore. And then time runs out and then they're down to the wire. So I've done some contract work of preparing teachers for ESL certification. I do it from a little bit of a different angle, a little bit more culturally relevant, because I have taken that exam. I've taught students like that. I've taught students that needed the TEL pass rating because of that background experience, and also understanding, especially for teachers of color, I'm not going to learn the information straight out of the textbook. I need to be able to relate it to what I've been doing or what I need to do. And a lot of times it's much easier to receive that information if you are trained by someone that looks like you. So I've started with that. I usually will be contracted out and go in and do training sessions with content and preparation. Right now, I am in the process of, while doing very many things at Prairie View, I'm also in the process of building an online training module for educators that need to prepare for ESL certification, and it'll be on the website as well. So for those that say we can't afford or we can't do the face-to-face training, then I can go online and I can sign up for the online training module or online training modules. I can earn continuing education credit because I've been designated by TEA to offer that with my training. So anyone that gets trained by me will also earn hours towards keeping their certification and a certificate. So right now, that's the area that I'm focusing on right now. However, I also offer program evaluation. So if there's anything in a school system where you all need an outside objective viewpoint and evaluation of how a program is running, I'm also able to do that. I've been trained to do that and credentialed to do that, as well as also just coaching and teaching and mentoring. So those are the services that I'm currently offering with my consulting firm.
Smells like money. All right.
The smell, isn't it?
Hey, look, Dr. Bowles sent us some emojis here. Hey.
That's a good smell. They need to make that into a candle.
Hey, look, air freshener in the car or something. Well, Doc, I just want to say thank you again for taking some time out. Any last words for teachers as they prepare for the interviews to get picked up by expert educators and leaders like Dr. Bolden?
Any last words, any final bits and nuggets or advice? I would tell them, go in authentically. A lot of times what I see is the nerves are there because they feel like it's a performance. It's not a performance. It's just someone talking to you. They just want to know more about your background. They just want to know more about what did you study and a little bit about your experience that you're bringing in with you. It's not a test. It's not a pass or fail. They're talking to you to just see if there's a vibe between you and them. And then the other nugget that I would also offer is do not be afraid to ask them questions back. An interview doesn't have to be a question and answer session like an interrogation. It is not an interrogation. Yeah. It is, if it's genuinely a conversation, it is a dialogue with you and whomever is in the room that wants to meet you. They called you, which means you have something that sparks their interest. So stop feeling as though you are auditioning. Stop feeling as though it's something you have to rehearse. Bring your authentic self. And then when you ask them questions back about how the work environment would be, and this is something that a lot of administrators probably do not want me to say, but I'll tell you what I tell my students. When you interview them back, listen to what they're saying. If there's something that they say that triggers a red flag for you, where you don't think that will be the best environment for you, and they make the offer, it is okay to say no. Because we need to move away from just take the first job they give you. Everybody can't do that. Everybody doesn't have to do that. Yes. I know some people have to, but there's going to be another opportunity. So just bring your authentic self and just have the conversation, because that's who's going to be showing up to work every day.
Thank you so much for that. Very powerful words right there. Look, as I get ready, I just applied for principal myself. So, man, I'm going to have to use that myself. Let me go in here and just talk about the work. I'm coming here trying to audition and shake up. Look, thank you so much for tonight, Doc. Very powerful, very good tidbits, and 57 minutes strong. So, you know we was running this thing.
Oh, yeah, of course we were. I thank you for the invitation. I enjoy talking with you.
Yeah, all right. Well, we'll be back for part 3, and we won't make it 3-4 years from now.
No, well, it's okay if we do.
Okay.
I might be a little gray, but that's all right. I put a little color in my hair.
All right. Well, that'll do it. If you have not, everybody go and get your Education Unleashed merch. We got it out here in these streets. Ktteev.com. Make sure you reach out. That will do it for me and Dr. Katina Thomas, representing that PV. You know. All right, y'all. This is KT for KTTV signing out. 100.
This is Darnell with Broadcast Houston.
This is Dr. Tamara Beckford.
Hey, this is Candace.
This is London Underwood.
This is Kirsten Bass with Inner City Greens, and you're watching.
Y'all are now tuned in to
Ktteev.
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 Ktteev. Is that right?